Hello, my name is Sarah Scudder, marketing maven. I spend most of my time talking to fellow supply chain and procurement nerds. I am today's guest on the Online Prosperity Show, and today you're going to hear some of my thoughts on how to build a personal brand, how to build community to further your career, and how to leverage LinkedIn as a key part of your personal branding strategy.
Welcome to our wonderful viewers to another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, the curator of all things prosperous and intriguing. And today we have a guest who's not just a supply chain aficionado, but also an ardent admirer of Bradley Cooper. Yes, you heard that right. She's been vying for a dinner date with him for over 3 years. And Mr. Limitless, all right, do something about this. 3 years is a very long time to have somebody looking you up like that. Talk about dedication there, Sarah. Now, Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. As you're saying that, I'm laughing because I'm sitting here looking at one of my Bradley Cooper shrines that I have in my family room with coloring books, cutouts. I even have pillows and a blanket. So I am hardcore stalker status.
Fantastic. Well, Mr. Bradley Cooper, do something. You get one of your pills and become limitless. And show up at the marketing maven's house there and just look at the shrine, and you might be surprised. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. For those that are watching, just stick around as we unravel her journey, which obviously is going to be filled with humor, insight, and maybe a sprinkle of Bradley Cooper tales. This promises to be one of the best episodes that we've had in a while. So grab your snacks and settle in for a delightful ride. Now, Sarah, obviously we can't just start off with Bradley Cooper and everything else. His marketing team and security might just shut us down before we actually get started. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you've been up to from the time you started your journey.
Yeah, so I was planning to pursue a career in the fashion industry. So if we wind the clock back in time when I was in college, I thought that I was going to go into fashion and eventually own my own company producing fashion shows. So I was the girl in college that wore the dress and heels and had the hats and matching purses. And I was all decked out and ready to pursue that career. I went to a very, very small state school here in California called Sonoma State University, and was a tiny, tiny school in wine country and had something like 4,000 undergraduates at the time. And fashion was not a major. It was pretty limited. So I was majoring in business. I had an emphasis in marketing. I had a minor in American multicultural studies and actually decided to pick up a second degree in economics. And my senior year in college, I was finishing my presidency. I was president of my sorority, Alpha Gamma Delta. And our big philanthropy was diabetes and giving money to diabetes research. So my kind of last hurrah for my sorority before I graduated was helping put on a big fundraising event. And this was a fundraising event where fraternities and sororities and other organizations would get together and they would produce pretty incredible lip sync performances. So think of like mini Broadway. So things that college students, right, are able to do, but pretty creative and hardcore. So people would practice for months, full-blown costumes, lighting. So I co-produced this big event. And when I signed up to be the co-producer, I had a full course load still. And I said, wow, this is going to be a lot of work. And there's all these things that I need to source and procure to put on this fundraising event. And a lot of those things were marketing related. So things like media placement, things like print, promo, swag. And so I had no idea how to source and procure something. So I found a local company that actually offered the service to procure marketing related things for organizations. So I hired them and said, great, here's all the things we need to accomplish and let them go to work, which was a really good decision because I was able to outsource a lot of this work that I didn't really have time for, didn't have the expertise. So host a very successful event. We raised, if I recall, something like $15,000 or $20,000 that we were able to donate to diabetes research. And at the end, after the event was over, this company that I had hired asked me if I wanted to come work for them when I graduated. And I'm thinking, absolutely not. This is so far from the fashion industry. I don't even know how to spell procurement. I have no idea, what this industry is even all about. I don't think it's something I'm overqualified for. But I took some time to get to know some of the people at the company. And one of the things that I really liked about them is they were a very small, regional focused company. And I realized that if I went and worked for a big company, I wouldn't necessarily get as much experience learning about all aspects of a business. And so I decided to actually take the job. And I think it was, I don't know, a week after I graduated, I started, and the company at the time was called Golden Pacific Systems. And that's how I started my career in procurement. Golden Pacific was a technology company selling a marketing procurement sourcing platform. And I'm sure we'll dive into and get into what that's all about. But so that was my very, very first job. I actually started in sales and spent the first part of my career in sales and helping take our company from a very small regional firm to something that was much more national. And through that process, I learned a lot about developing a go-to-market strategy, how to produce valuable, interesting content. And through the course of my sales career, I became to develop an interest in marketing. And as we'll talk about, I'm sure I pivoted eventually in my career from sales into marketing because of some of the things I was able to test out and learned that I really had a passion and knack for.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing with us there, because it's quite an extensive journey that you took there. Now, let's start off with the allure to fashion. I mean, obviously, a lot of people will have grown up maybe watching TV or being exposed to, Paris Fashion Week, or maybe because Bradley Cooper speaks French. I don't know. What was the allure to fashion?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very, very small town called Chico. So fashion was not a big thing where I grew up, but I did runway modeling in high school. I am 6 foot tall, flat footed. And so being super tall gave me an advantage. And so I started doing fashion shows. I also did some mannequin modeling as well, with that's where you literally sit frozen in a pose for long periods of time, which is a whole nother thing in itself. But as I started doing it, I just really enjoyed it. I met some incredible people. And I think there's a lot of creativity and innovation in fashion. But one of the things that I also learned is it's a very, very tough industry. It's very, very hard to make it. And if you do decide to go the modeling route versus the production route, by the time you're 30 years old, you're kind of a has-been. So I always had that in the back of my mind that if I was going to pursue something in the fashion industry, that I wanted to be on the production side, more of the business side, so I'd be able to do something longer term.
Absolutely. And how far did you go with that journey? Because
Yeah, so just high school, I decided to go to college, go all in on business degree and learning about sales and marketing. And so nothing past college. I will say, though, as I've developed my career in supply chain and procurement, I have had some experiences working with some CPG and retail brands. So that's kind of been fun, but in a different capacity than I was originally planning.
Fantastic. You see, a lot of people would have a dream, and maybe some people follow it, and or life happens, and then they, have to actually, survive or go into survival. Do you maybe have any regrets for not having followed your passions, or do you think the path you then took really has, been that sort of invisible blessing in disguise?
Yeah. So as I look back, so I'm 40 years old. So I look back on the first part of my career, there's definitely some things I would have done differently, things I would have prioritized. But I will say I'm very, very happy that I stumbled upon the procurement industry. It's not something that I ever imagined or ever knew about or would have purposely chosen to pursue, but it's provided me with some incredible opportunities from a branding, a networking perspective, and also a personal financial perspective. So very, very happy with the industry that I wound up in. Would I have changed some things about my career path and what I did in my earlier days? Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, your sort of prime days were the time when you were, with a sorority, and obviously they was involved, with a lot of fundraising, and there would have been a lot of selling. Would you think that's where you got your passion of selling and actually networking with other people to get an outcome, because you ended up getting a really good outcome for the diabetes, charity or foundation?
Yeah, so I think I struggled with school throughout my entire childhood. School did not come easily to me. I was not somebody that did well taking tests. SATs was kind of a disaster for me. And so I knew that if I wanted to be financially successful and stable and independent on my own, that I was going to need to choose a career path where I was able to control my own destiny and kind of have a limitless opportunity from an income perspective. One of those things would be a business owner and being an entrepreneur and running your own company. But another career path where that can be very, very financially lucrative is sales. And so I spent some time when I was in college kind of studying what some of those different options were. And I decided that going into sales was something that would probably suit my personality. I really enjoy being around people. I enjoy helping others. I think I'm a good listener and I like building community. So combining all of those things, I thought sales is something that I would be really interested in. So I decided to give it a shot.
Fantastic. And well, good on you for choosing that path and getting into that sort of realm, because you've really made a good success of yourself. Now, sales and procurement and the things that you went on to do are usually in the area that I've experienced, very male dominated sort of industries. How did you manage to actually stand out amongst an environment that is usually cutthroat and also very, very sort of masculine in outlook?
Yeah, so when I started in procurement and supply chain, I would say it was definitely much more of a male dominated industry than it is today. And I was in something called marketing procurement, which was very, very new. So when I started my career, this was just something that was coming to be. And this was typically a role or a function that larger organizations were building out that were spending lots and lots of money on marketing. So often billion-dollar spends where companies were doing major media placements, agency, content, buying lots of print, packaging, swag, events. And people were starting to realize that, wow, this is a really big spend. We're spending hundreds of millions or $1 billion+ on marketing, and nobody's really looking at the spend here. Are we getting an ROI? Do we have the right suppliers? Are we getting the best price? And so this was a function that people started looking at and saying, okay, well, maybe we actually need to have somebody who's sitting on the marketing and the procurement team helping marketing make the right decisions with their budget. So what came to be is a role now, and in some organizations, it's entire teams, and it's called marketing procurement. So the first three companies in my career that I worked for actually sold marketing procurement software. So we were SaaS companies going out to marketing procurement professionals. If an organization didn't have that specific role, it was often someone in something called an indirect sourcing or strategic sourcing type position. And we were saying, use our platform to go out and competitively bid, better manage your suppliers, track their KPIs and performance, and look at supplier diversity and ESG and make sure that's something that you can track and manage and measure as well. So that's what I started in. And as I continued to advance and develop my career, one of the things that was really important to me was elevating other women in the industry. And that was about building community. So it's something that I've always been really passionate, always something that I've done. So whether that's hosting a podcast, whether that's hosting LinkedIn live shows, whether that's actually running in person and or virtual networking groups, that was something that I prioritized from the very beginning. And I prioritized making sure that women were included in all of those initiatives and activities. I recently hosted a show called Women in ERP. And this was a show that would talk about some of the challenges and obstacles and things happening in the ERP space. And it was women only panels. And that was kind of fun. So we actually, all of the panels that I moderated and facilitated were women only speakers. If I was hosting other panels or shows, I was very, very conscious of trying to have at least half of the speakers be female and making sure that females were always represented in all of the events. So big part of who I am, was a big part of my initiatives and something that I've continued to carry on today. I will say, now that we're in 2024, there are definitely more women in procurement, and I would say more women now in more senior roles. So a few years ago, yes, more women in the industry, but a lot of them were in more junior roles. And now I am seeing more women getting director, VP, and CPO, chief executive type roles.
Absolutely. And good on you for noticing that and also helping other women step up in this sort of realms. Now, in order for somebody to be a good community builder, they have to be somewhat of a character, someone with a brand or personal brand that, people would now then want to follow through. Now, would this be something that you looked into, or you just wanted to do your job?
So building a brand has been a core pillar from very, very early on in my career. And one of the things I realized is people buy from people. And you want to have your own voice, you want to have your own personality, you want to stand out and be able to provide valuable content to your audience. So when they are ready to buy, they will think of you and your company and reach out. So the goal is to build a brand to drive qualified inbound opportunities, so you're not cold calling and randomly reaching out to people and annoying them when they don't have budget or they're not ready to buy. So community building is a big part of building your brand. For me, my main platform from day one was LinkedIn. So I spend significant time and resources producing content that I post every single day, 7 days a week on LinkedIn. That's a variety of picture posts, carousel posts, text only posts, video posts. And over the time, I've developed and added additional social platform, but LinkedIn has always been my main core platform. And that's because that's where my buyers have always been. the buyers and people I was selling to were on LinkedIn more than any other platform. Had my buyers been on TikTok or buyers on Insta or another platform, that was the platform I would have dedicated time and resources to. So because I did my research and I know where my buyers are, I wanted to build my brand in that specific place to get visibility and get in front of them. So huge part of my strategy is posting regular content on LinkedIn. It's also hosting shows. So I do several LinkedIn live shows where I'm going live and interviewing guests or moderating panel discussions. It may be me popping on and talking about a specific topic. I also, at my last company, launched a podcast that was very industry specific, where we brought guests on and talked about specific subjects. I also host a group called Shaken Not Stirred, and it is for people working in procurement. I host it every 3 weeks, and it's an hour-long networking session. Everyone gets a chance to introduce themselves, talk about themselves personally and professionally, and then each time we have a different industry topic that we discuss.
Absolutely. I think you should add another episode on your repertoire and maybe call it Limitless.
I think when you build your own brand, you create a lot more opportunities for yourself.
Absolutely. I was just saying that because then you might just have Bradley Cooper's team showing up and saying, you cannot use this name. And you'll be like, well, I can only listen to Bradley
I
Cooper.
have been stalking him for many years. I haven't been banned yet.
I was just giving you insider tips on using copyrights to get their attention. Absolutely. Now, you actually mentioned mastering LinkedIn as a key strategy. Now, a lot of our audiences will be people that are looking to create for and relate to their audience. And LinkedIn started off as just a resume site. What sort of has changed now on that platform, which allows people to really express themselves, into a personal brand instead of them just showing up with just their, corporate look and feel?
Yeah, so a couple things I'll say about the first thing is people used to and still do today think that it's a very corporate professional platform and that you need to write very corporate boring content. Absolutely not the case. People buy from people. People want to hear personal stories. People want to get to know who you are as a creator. So over the last few years, I think more and more people like myself have started to humanize LinkedIn and make it okay and give other people permission to post more fun, engaging, and interesting content. So gone are the days of, hey, here's my white paper and here are 20 things that you should know about, the securities industry. If it's not funny, if it's not engaging, if it's not interesting, people are not going to consume it and read it. And so that was a big pivot in LinkedIn because the content was so dry and so boring that people really weren't spending time on the platform consuming it. The other thing I'll say is LinkedIn has had the most year-over-year growth in users since its inception versus any other social platform. So if you look at from the day it started through today, year-over-year growth has been greater on LinkedIn than any other platform. I will also say that there are a lot of people on LinkedIn that don't produce and post their own content. Well, what does that mean for you as somebody who wants to build a brand? You have a pretty open opportunity to produce content that other people are going to see because the platform has not become saturated yet. I would argue if you go on TikTok, for example, there are a lot of people that are on TikTok that are also content producers. And so it's much more crowded space. But LinkedIn has not become saturated yet. So there is opportunity for you to post content and have it become seen.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for clarifying that, because some people just show up on LinkedIn and they're like, I don't think I can be able to compete. Yet when they go to other platforms, it just seems easy. And
the competition is much higher on other platforms for people that are already producing and posting their own content.
Fantastic. While you're speaking, you also mentioned a couple of words that caught my attention, like organic and, dark social. Now, these terms obviously sound very mysterious to the people that are, uninitiated, in your sort of world. Now, could you maybe shed a bit of light on how you've leveraged these channels and how you actually use them to amplify your business while you're at it?
Yeah, so by what I mean by organic social is things that you're not paying to promote. So if you're running Google ads or Facebook ads or TikTok ads or ads on LinkedIn, these are things that you're producing and then paying to get seen, often in a bidding model where you're paying on LinkedIn quite a bit of money to actually have your content shown to specific viewers. LinkedIn is probably the most expensive platform right now. When you look at cost per click and cost per view, it's very, very expensive versus the other platforms. Organic is producing content from your own profile, not paying to elevate it. And I would argue that you can have tremendous ROI and results by producing content from your own pages or having employees, if you own and run a company, having them produce content and post it versus trying to run ads and or posting things from a company page, which we're not going to get shown and viewed as much. That's what I mean by organic, is having an actual human producing the content and posting it from a personal page. You also mentioned dark social, and this is something I talk a fair amount about. Dark social is what I call word of mouth marketing, or things that you do that are not easily trackable by attribution software. So I'll give you an example. If I go on tomorrow and I do a post about something in procurement or supply chain, and then somebody takes my post and shares it internally in their Slack channel at work. Then somebody reads my post, starts following me, and starts reading my content. And then maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, maybe 6 months later, maybe a year later, because my content was posted in Slack and that person thought it was valuable and started following me and consuming my content, they may one day reach out and go to my company website. But that attribution is not going to be attributed to a LinkedIn post that was done a year ago. If you go look in attribution software, that's going to be triggered as direct or a Google search. That Google search is not really why that person, how that person should be attributed. So that's what I call dark social. And I think dark social is very, very underutilized. And I think there's a lot that companies can do to better leverage dark social as they're building out their demand gen strategies.
Absolutely. All these things that you're talking about is things that, they are active companies that track every movement where the person would have come from, but some origination, like you say, would have been like a meme or a post that is just posted in either an email forwarded or like a Slack channel that people don't quite know how to track and connect. Now, these are a couple of tools that you have been utilizing, and maybe you can shed a bit of light on those. I think it's called Cloud or Reggie.ai. Has that got anything to do with the work that you're currently doing at the moment?
Yeah, so as I advanced in my career, I pivoted from sales into marketing because I fell in love with the idea of creating relevant content and getting it in front of the right eyeballs at the right time. And as I transitioned into a marketing career, and in my last role, I was the chief marketing officer at a supply chain software company on the direct side, selling into mid-market manufacturers. And one of the things that us marketing professionals need to do is better use our time and make sure our teams are being as efficient as possible. And that is all about leveraging AI. AI is here. It's not going anywhere. Adopt it, learn how to use it, be an expert. So you're the person that gets the job because you know how to master AI and you know how to use the tools so you can do more. Two AI tools that I personally use and that I recommend to others is called Claude, Claude, and you can sign up for a free trial or free version of it. And it's much more of a human way to create content versus ChatGPT, which in my opinion is a little bit more robotic and a little bit more dry and a little bit more corporate. Claude allows you to give prompts so the content comes back more like a person and more like someone with the personality that you're looking for. The second is called Reggie AI. A good friend of mine named Leslie actually recommended it to me. What it does, it allows you to put sales emails in their platform, and it goes through and grades the likelihood of that email performing well. So this is great if you're working with an SDR or BDR function where you're doing cold outbounding to people via email. And it'll give you a score from 0 to 100. 100 is perfect, awesome. I recommend never sending out an email or email cadence that has less than a 90% score. So if I write a 3-part email cadence and I drop it in Reggie AI and I get a score of 80, it then tells me what to do to improve that score. So it might recommend different titles, an emoji, remove an emoji, make the email copy shorter, make it longer, tweak this or that. So you can go in and accept the changes, and then it will re-rate the email. So that's a way that you can leverage AI to Claude to create the content for the email, and then you can put it in Reggie AI to rate and help make tweaks and changes before you send out an email cadence.
Oh, fantastic. That will definitely save a lot of people time, money, and effort, because so many people are using like the outbound routes to connect with their audiences. And sometimes you hear crickets only because your emails are not pulling. Now, if people would like to maybe get a hold of you or maybe learn about what it is that you're doing or follow you on your journey, would LinkedIn be the best place that they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little bit of a LinkedIn addict. I spend quite a bit of time on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn, X, and Facebook, but LinkedIn is the preferred way to look for me. So just type in Sarah Scudder. That's Sarah with an H. Scudder is Scudder. You can follow me, send me a connect request, and I do produce content every single day, 7 days a week on LinkedIn. And most of my content is around supply chain and procurement. So just wanted to throw that out there, that that is the topic that I write about and talk a lot about online.
See, thank you so much for giving us access to that, and those that are going to be reaching out to Sarah, just obviously learn from her and find out exactly how she is managing to, utilize all these AI tools to actually be, do, and have a happier existence herself. And while you're there, if you've got a number or access to Bradley Cooper, please make sure that Sarah does have that, because Sarah, your quest to have a date with Bradley Cooper has certainly raised a lot of eyebrows.
I've been on a mission for the last 3 years. I've been unsuccessful so far, so it's on my list for 2024.
Fantastic. Now, Sarah, if Bradley Cooper's team or himself manages to get a hold of this video, what would you want to tell him right now?
Oh, you should absolutely go on a dinner date with me. We have lots of things to chat about and discuss.
Right. He needs to know that, right?
Of course he needs to know that. Now, if I saw him in person, I would probably faint.
Absolutely. But you guys are equals, because you are a bit of a celebrity yourself, right? Being an extra in the movie Under Wraps is also such a cool tidbit. Can you maybe share us this?
Yeah, and I'm actually taller. So I'm 6 foot flat-footed. I'm actually taller than him as well. That's a little fact. So in high school, so I grew up in a town called Chico. Chico State is kind of well known. It's a kind of known as a party college. So I grew up in the town where Chico State is, and the Disney Channel was producing a movie called Under Wraps. And the guy from Coach at the time was the lead in this movie, and he was actually some sort of mummy in the movie. And so they put out a call in Chico for extras. They needed all these people to be doing random things in the background throughout the movie. So I'm like, absolutely, I'm gonna go try out. So I tried out, made it, and I think I was on production for like a week. And it was filmed at Chico High School, which was like 5 or 10 minutes from where I grew up. And I would show up every day, and I was with all the other nobodies who had no speaking lines. And, you work like 10 or 12 hours a day. And there's a lot of sitting around, a lot of waiting, a lot of redoing the clips. But it's a movie that is released or shown almost every single year on the Disney Channel during Halloween time. So in the month of October, if you're scrolling and see Under Wraps, you may see me in the background.
Absolutely. Well, and that about wraps our exhilarating conversation with Sarah Cooper. I'm actually going to coin that name there.
I do it often, so feel free.
All right, the supply chain Marvin with a zest and for sustainability, and also a dash of Bradley Cooper dreams. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for gracing us with your wit and wisdom, and can't wait to have you back on the show when you are actually celebrating having had that lunch or dinner with Bradley Cooper.
I'll be on my private jet, and hopefully I'll see you all on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And to our cherished viewers, if you enjoyed today's episode, how could you not? Make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you can actually not miss any of these gems, insights, and laughter. And who knows, maybe some Bradley Cooper updates in the future from Sarah herself. But until next time, keep prosperous and keep chasing those dreams. Bye for now.